yet another exciting evening right here in the city of Port Harcourt. Welcome to another thrilling edition of Sport Extraordinary right here on Atlantic Television Network. My name is Emmanuel Michael. Glad to be here this evening to bring you up to speed with the happenings in the world of sports. And the focus on the show this evening is about the ongoing Australian Open, because big names are set to clash in the final, both in the ATP and in the WT. And the playoff for the UEFA Champions League draw is out. And Benfica, yes, again, will trade tackles against Real Madrid, plus many other big stories popping up from the world of sports this evening that we are going to take you through. We'll do that when we are back from this short break. back from that short break. Kingsley is here with me this evening. Kingsley, good evening and welcome to Sport Extraordinary.
Mike, nice to be here this evening. Another interesting weekend to take a look at the latest revolving around the beautiful world of sport. Thanks for having me.
All right, talking about the latest revolving around the world of sport this weekend. Let's start from the Australian Open because Novak Djokovic will meet Carlos Alcaraz in the Australian Open final after both players maintained their respective bid for history by coming through 5-set epic on an extraordinary day in Melbourne. A 38-year-old Djokovic will have his latest shot at a record 25th major triumph, the sole unfulfilled ambition of his illustrious career after the Serb came from behind to beat two-time defending champion Yannick Sinner 3-6, 6-3, 4-6, 6-4, 6-4. Kingsley, it was such an entertaining encounter. Not too many saw this one coming. Taking a look at the way Novak Djokovic was able to find his way through to this point. You know, 2 games as his opponent pulled off, and some thought maybe that was going to be more like a disadvantage for Novak Djokovic, but then he was able to beat that challenge and produce one of the best form of his career to come back and beat Yannick Sinner. What do you make of that thrilling encounter?
I think for me was a very tough one. Djokovic, of course, despite losing the first set in that one, was able to bounce back. All right, when you take a look at how Djokovic has played in these tournaments, you won't really have it in mind that he was going to bounce back against Yannick Sinner. Well, he was able to bounce back, and I went on, of course, you know, to win that particular one. So it was really, really a surprising performance for me. I don't really know what happened to, you know, Yannick Sinner, of course, you know, because you take a look at how far he has played. You expected him, you know, to have maybe put up a very huge challenge against, you know, Novak Djokovic, who is not really in form, you know, in this tournament. But I think after that game we saw against Ben Shelton, he was complaining. His serve, of course, you know, were not really right, you know, as his time. But probably, you know, I think that's also might have really contributed. But I think what we saw, Djokovic was very ready, you know, for this particular encounter. His experience, of course, we've been talking about, really paved the way, you know, for him, of course, to get up, to get this particular victory. For a man who has been in these tournaments for, you know, almost 11 times, to say, talking about being in the final of the Australian Open. I think this is a tournament he has also won about 10 times. So you take a look at it, a lot of experience, you know, comes into play for the man Novak Djokovic than Alcaraz and then Yannick Sinner, of course, who is even very much young. Not too many Australian Open, of course, in his cabinet, you know, at this point in time. So if you want to look at it, I think what really gave Djokovic an edge in this one was really the experience. When you talk about form, I think that one, of course, is far away from him this time around. So the experience was a key factor for Novak Djokovic. It went into 5-setter, and you ask yourself, where did he carry the courage and the strength to be able to withstand the young, you know, Yannick Sinner on the day? So a whole lot went into this particular one, and for me, I think it's really a huge one for Novak Djokovic. I didn't really see this coming because you take a look at his last 2 games where his opponents have been retiring for him to skate through. You will see, oh, Djokovic, you know, not really in form and all of that, but he was able to put up that, you know, masterclass, you know, display we used to see from him against Yannick Sinner. So it's a good one for him. We'll just look forward to see if maybe this will be that season where he finally, of course, clinched that 25th Grand Slam title.
Impressive display from Novak Djokovic as he was able to go past the world number 2, talking about the Italian Yannick Sinner in such a, you know, mouth-watering encounter early hours of today. Meanwhile, in the second game, we saw Carlos Alcaraz earlier came through 6-4, 7-6, 6-7, 6-7, 7-5 after an intriguing 5 hours and 27 minutes against Alexander Zverev to go through in that particular one. And for the Spaniard, Carlos Alcaraz, it was yet another big battle for him against Zverev. 5 hours plus. And if you take a look at the margin, very, very, close call. But then he was able to find his way through. You think he stands in a very good position to make a statement of intent in the final?
Yeah, but I think for me, we take a look at the impressive run of Carlos Alcaraz as well. You also want to give him that, a go ahead or benefit of a doubt that he can put up a very impressive, display in the final of this particular one. I knew he was going to take down Alexander Zverev. All right, I knew because Zverev always falters when it matters most. That is always what he does. He plays very well, get to the final, maybe semi-final of the competition, but winning it has been a problem. Zverev is a player that has been in the scene for a very long time and still have nothing to prove. He doesn't have one Grand Slam recorded to his name, but he has been getting to the finals of different Grand Slam and different tournaments. So when I saw that pairing, Zverev and Alcaraz, I just knew that Alcaraz has taken this one because, for Zverev to pull up a surprise, I even doubt him pulling up a surprise, against an informed Carlos Alcaraz, in this particular one. So, yes, it was a little bit of a cagey one because Zverev was also very much optimistic, in trying to see how to get through. But Alcaraz, looking at the fact that he's also chasing a record for himself in this particular one, was very, cool-headed and wanted to get this one. And he got it, at the end of the day. So, I think the final for me is going to be another blockbuster encounter. But when it comes to this pairing, Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz, I'm always afraid. Why? I'm afraid due to the fact that Alcaraz, I don't know, sometimes find it difficult to beat Novak Djokovic, especially when they tend to meet, all right? They've met about, I think 9 times. Djokovic has actually gone ahead of him. It is 5-4 in favor of Novak Djokovic, at this point in time. So, for me, I don't know if the man is actually giving him maybe respect based on the fact that Djokovic is a legend, in the game, and all of that. So I'm always afraid because Djokovic knows how to beat Carlos Alcaraz. From what I've seen, he knows how to beat Carlos Alcaraz. But I don't know if that will be the case this weekend, talking about the Australian Open final. Maybe Alcaraz might just change it, as it stands. So let's just see, what comes up, in the final. But I think looking at the fact that both players are chasing the record. Djokovic looking for his 25th Grand Slam. Alcaraz, of course, looking calendar slam against Jannik Sinner. And I think he's going to trade, on that form down to the final against Jannik Sinner. So let's just see what comes. I can't really decide where the pendulum will swing to. But I think the best player will get it at the end of the day.
The best player to get it at the end of the day. Meanwhile, the men's single final takes place on Sunday after world number 1, Arina Zabalenka, and former Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina met in Saturday. Then talking about the Arina Zabalenka tie, before we head to the WTA and talk about that final, let's focus majorly between, the battle between Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. In your earlier postulation, you clearly stated the numbers between these two. 9 times they've met a piece, and Novak Djokovic holds just a slim advantage, 5 against 4. But both players will be gunning for separate history for themselves. Now, we take a look at the age of both players. It is another thing as well that we need to also talk about. Novak Djokovic battled through, all hours, almost 5 hours to go through. Some said because of his age, he might not be able to cope with the younger generation in the person of Carlos Alcaraz. Do you agree with that position?
I think somewhere you want to agree a bit, at this point in time, all right? At 38 years of age, and the man, Alcaraz, I think is 32 years, at this point. So you could see the difference, all right? It's very, very huge. Djokovic, 38 years of age, you will see he might not really have the strength, all right? But when you talk about the experience, all right, you want to give it to him. This is one man that has won 10 Australian Open title. 10. All right, this is going to be his 11th final in the Australian Open. So you talk about experience, he has it. How many Australian Open has Alcaraz won? He has not won one. He hasn't won any. In fact, this is his first Australian Open final. All right, so you take a look at it. Experience-wise, Djokovic has it. He might not really have the strength, all right, to maybe withstand, Alcaraz, and all of that. But experience is always very, very key. Someone might have the strength, and all of that, and do not know how to use the strength tactically. All right, but you who have the experience might know how to, of course, use that experience, even though you don't have more strength, to get something at the end of the day. So for me, I think you talk about experience and form, or experience and strength. I think experience is key here. Take a look at the game between Djokovic and Sinner. You think, take a look at the age gap. All right, if you talk about strength, Sinner has it. But when you take a look at him, man, he came into the game, went down in the first set, was able to bounce back. What does that tell you? It's the experience. Djokovic knows how to do the mind games, and all of that. Remember initially when this tournament started, he was complaining of not being fit, and I said it. This is how he normally does before you see him in the final, and it has happened. All right. So for me, I think his experience has really, really paved way for him. He might not have that strength, maybe, to go very far, and all of that. But I think his experience and how to reserve, of course, his strength has really. Take a look. He went 5-setter with Yannick Sinner. So that's why I said Alcaraz should be very careful. I just said, I told you earlier that I'm always afraid when it comes to Djokovic and Alcaraz in a game, because Djokovic always knows how to beat Alcaraz. That's the thing. So you talk about this one. I think he might not have, yes, that strength, but his experience is a huge advantage for Novak Djokovic in this final.
Experience indeed a huge advantage as they head into the final come Sunday. Meanwhile, let's talk about the female category, because the Australian Open women final is between Aryna Sabalenka, the Belarusian, and Elena Rybakina, the Kazakhstan. This is a rematch of their 2023. It's set for the Australian Open final, both the male and the female category, and the die is cast who takes the victory. Only time will tell. Just a few hours from now, we'll see the first winner in the female category, before we now wait till Sunday to see who reigns supreme between the young lads, Carlos Alcaraz, and the 38-year-old Novak Djokovic, the Serb. But at this point, we'll take a quick break from the non-footballing stories. When we are back in the second half, we'll dive straight to Europe. I will serve you some of the latest fixtures in the UEFA Champions League playoff. It promises to be a massive meeting among clubs as they battle to find their way through to the last 16 plus weekend fixtures in the English Premier League and other top leagues across Europe. All these and many more will form the bulk of our conversation in the second half of the show. We'll be back in a jiffy. right, welcome back from that short break. Let's head straight to the UEFA Champions League playoff draw as Real Madrid will tackle Benfica, while Paris Saint-Germain have been drawn against AS Monaco in the UEFA Champions League knockout phase playoffs. Following earlier draw in Lyon, Switzerland today. A draw produces several high-profile fixtures as teams battle for places in the round of 16 under the competition's new format, talking about the Swiss format. Kingsley, let's take our time to clearly dissect some of these interesting fixtures. Real Madrid will be up against Benfica. Both teams just met a few days ago, and Benfica did extraordinary things when Trubin, the goalkeeper, popped up a late minute to score that vital goal, which actually, handed them the playoff ticket. Do you see Jose Mourinho repeating or replicating the same feat again when they meet in this playoff?
I think we just have to look at it. Some target to be luck, for Benfica in that encounter, looking at the fact that Madrid, I think we are about 2 men down, of course, in that game, and we saw Benfica pulling up, that high level of performance in that particular encounter. So we just have to keep our fingers crossed, and see what happened. Don't forget, Benfica needed that win to see how they can stay afloat, at least, be able to measure up via the playoff, and that's why they were so determined, in that encounter. So from what it says, we just have to see if when Real Madrid will be complete on the pitch of play, if possibly they will get past them. But I think Madrid might get past Benfica this time around. It might not be business as usual for them. Taking a look at the fact that they might have gone back and be able to put 1 or 2 together in terms of drawing 1 or 2 lessons from that loss against Benfica. And don't forget, they have a new coach who is also looking forward to, of course, inspire the owners of the side. So I think for me, it's not going to be business as usual for Benfica. Real Madrid, the one thing, of course, we know them for is that at this stage of the competition, they always know how to navigate their way. They know how to win when it comes to the Champions League. So it's going to be a difficult one for Benfica. But don't take anything away from Benfica. They have been very impressive in their league. And of course, they're also trying to see how they can hold their own in the UEFA Champions League. So despite the fact that Madrid might be ahead, it's still going to be a cagey encounter. Anything can still happen. We've seen a lot of surprises so far in this UEFA Champions League. It's not all about the big teams, all right? It's about which of the team can be able to prove a point. We saw what Bodo Glimt did in this competition, beating Manchester City, even beating Atletico Madrid to find their way, of course, in the playoffs. So we've seen so many surprises. We might just see that surprise where Real Madrid will be ousted out in the playoff or for the competition to be a very huge surprise. It has never happened since the league phase of the UEFA Champions League. So we can possibly see that surprise, but on paper, you want to give it to Real Madrid.
It's going to be a titanic battle as Real Madrid will try to take a pound of flesh against Benfica. Yes, when they meet yet again in the playoff. Meanwhile, Bodo Glimt, one surprising team in this particular stage of the UEFA Champions League, are pulling some string as well. Bodo Glimt will also play against Inter Milan. Kingsley, Bodo Glimt, Inter Milan, who goes through?
This might just be the end of the road for Bodo Glimt, right, against Inter Milan. Yes, they tried to get to this stage, beating Manchester City and also Atletico Madrid, heading down to this one against Inter. It might not be business as usual for them. Inter Milan might just end their fairy tale run in the UEFA Champions League, but yeah, they might just come up. Of course, we expected them to beat Manchester City. I didn't see that coming. What about Atletico? I didn't also see that coming. So we might just see this Bodo Glimt being a surprising side in this UEFA Champions League. So let us see how it goes. I think for me, it's a very, very scary pairing down there, especially for Bodo Glimt.
Well, while the French Ligue 1 will say to meet each other as AS Monaco will also trade tackles against Paris Saint-Germain. This is all French affairs.
Yeah, all French affair at this point in time. Monaco, PSG. PSG, of course, they tend to struggle this time around in the UEFA Champions League. Last time, of course, we'll see them put up a little bit of an impressive performance, than what, of course, we've seen as defending champion. You expect them, of course, to have lived up to expectation. I don't know if it's as a result of the fact that the manager, talking about Luis Enrique, has concluded that he will leave the side, looking for a new challenge, at this point in time. But we still expect the best, from them. So let's just see what, comes up. For Monaco, I think there's also still, stand a chance of putting up a very high level of, fights in that encounter.
All right, for Monaco, it is a battle of all French affairs as they will be welcoming Paris Saint-Germain. Let's see who goes through in that one. But Karabakh also will play against Newcastle United. Galatasaray will be up against Juventus. This is one interesting game that many will want to focus their attention on Kingsley because of maybe because of our own Victor James Osimhen for the Galatasaray side. Juventus against Galatasaray. Who pulls through?
Yeah, everyone wants to take a look at that particular encounter because we want to see how far Victor Osimhen can carry this Galatasaray side, in the UEFA Champions League. He's been prolific, of course, for them, but they couldn't hold their own against Manchester City. But against the Juventus side, I think Gala can try as much as they can to, put up a fight and see how they can get an impressive result. Let's just see what comes up. If you look at it, it's just like the whole burden is just on the shoulder of Victor Osimhen. If he can carry them, maybe, I'm not even talking about winning the competition, but at least maybe quarterfinals. That would mean a whole lot, for Galatasaray. And the fans, of course, will really cherish, will continue to cherish Victor Osimhen, and they'll continue to gain value, for fighting so hard to get the man from Napoli. So let's just keep our fingers crossed. I think, Galatasaray can do this. This same Galatasaray side beat Liverpool earlier this season in the UEFA Champions League, and I feel they can also replicate that same form against Juventus.
Yes, big battle await Victor James Osimhen against the old ladies. Meanwhile, Club Brugge will be up against Atletico Madrid, while Borussia Dortmund will play Atalanta. Olympiacos also play against Bayern Leverkusen. These are the fixtures of the UEFA Champions League playoff. Away from that, let me serve you the result of the second-tier European football. Talking about the Europa, as Aston Villa beat FC Salzburg 3-2. Basel lost at home to Victoria Plzeň 1-0. Celtic smashed FC Utrecht 4-2. Midtjylland beat Dynamo Zagreb 2-0. FC Porto came down from a goal to beat Rangers 3-1. CSB also played 1-1 against Fenerbahce, while Red Star Belgrade were held at home 1-1 by Celta Vigo. Genk beat Malmo 2-1. Go Ahead Eagle played zeros against Braga, while Lille also saw off Freiburg 1-0. Ludogorets, yes, got a bit of Nice, while Lyon also beat POK Athens of Greece 4-2. Maccabi Tel Aviv lost at home to Bologna 3-1. Nottingham Forest beat Ferencváros 4-0. Panathinaikos played 1-1 against AS Roma. Real Betis beat Feyenoord 2-1, while Sturm Graz got a bit of a Brann 1-0. Stuttgart beat Young Boys 3-2. All right, away from that, let's head straight to some of the weekend fixtures in the English Premier League before we head to other top league. As Brighton Hove Albion will be up against Everton this weekend. Leeds United will play host to Arsenal. Kingsley, this is one interesting game that so many want to keep their eye on because of Arsenal. In their last 3 games right now, it's been a difficult one. In fact, the last game at the Emirates Stadium, they lost to Manchester United. Can Arsenal get all 3 points this weekend?
I think it's a must win. It should be a must win for Arsenal Football Club. If they don't win this weekend, it will be another terrible one. You can't tell me that you continue in your last 3 games, you cannot, pick 3 points. It's very disheartening. Against Liverpool, they managed to, I think, pick a point. Came to Nottingham Forest, pick a point, and they lost to Manchester United. So losing against Leeds or a draw against Leeds, it would be a disappointing one for Arsenal. They were leading they would have been topping this league with about 11 points or thereabouts. But this is where they are now, just managing to top the league with just 4 points. It's very disappointing for a team that wants to win the Premier League. All right, so for me, Arsenal must win. It's a must win against Leeds. Else, I think they should just wave the title race goodbye. Because if they don't, all right, it's going to be a huge setback for them. Manchester City, you never can tell what they will do against Tottenham Hotspur this weekend. So I think Arteta and his men must look for a way not to disappoint their fans this weekend.
Arteta must look for a way not to disappoint Arsenal faithful this weekend. Meanwhile, Wolves welcome Bournemouth as Chelsea will trade tackles against West Ham United. Liverpool will be up against Newcastle United. Newcastle against Liverpool. Do you see Liverpool taking all 3 points at Anfield?
Yes, I think Liverpool stand a chance, especially when you take a look at their impressive form, of recent. This week they bash, Karabag in the UEFA Champions League. You might say it's Karabag, but I think you see a little bit of improvements, in that Liverpool side. Just like they've not really been that consistent. They've not really shown that high level of consistency. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed, and see how it goes. Talking about winning the title, I don't really see that, coming for Liverpool this time around. But finishing in a comfortable position in the league, I think, of course, they can do that. Maybe they can also shift more of the energy to fighting for the UEFA Champions League.
Meanwhile, Aston Villa will also be at home against Brentford as Manchester United will hope to continue their impressive ride under their new manager, talking about Michael Carrick against Fulham. Nottingham Forest will be up against Crystal Palace, while Tottenham welcome Manchester City, and Sunderland will play host to Burnley. Manchester United against Fulham. Kingsley, do you see Carrick continue with the fine form we've seen of him?
I think for we to really come to conclusion that Carrick is here to stay and to put up good football for Manchester United, we have to look at this game as well. He has been so lucky. I don't know, will I say lucky? No, I can't really say lucky. I think he has been able to imprint or probably put in something, of course, in the team. We saw what they did. They played conservative football, all right, against City. Still the same thing against, Arsenal Football Club. Took their chances, of course, when it matters, no matter what the opponents, play. So I think against Fulham, we're really going to test that. Can he continue with that pattern? Can he continue to grind out the results, even when no one, of course, expects him, to do so? So I think this weekend we'll truly know if Carrick, of course, is truly that man we've been talking about. I think for him to maybe get that accolade, to get the trust or win the trust of the fans and the owners of United, he has to be on a very good run of wins. He has to be winning. He has to be on a very good run of winning games for, let's say, about 5 to 6, even before talking about drawing or losing, knowing that he's on an interim base. So if he wants to secure the job, he must have a very, very good run this time. And it starts this weekend against Fulham.
It starts this weekend against Fulham. Meanwhile, let's head straight to the La Liga and service some of the fixtures as Real Oviedo will be up against Girona. Osasuna will take on Villarreal. Levante will be up against Atletico Madrid as Elche welcome Barca. Real Madrid will take on Real Vallecano as Real Betis will play host to Valencia. Getafe will trade tackles against Celta Vigo. Atletico Bilbao will welcome Real Sociedad. And Sevilla will play host to Girona as Sevilla playing host to Girona. These are some of the fixtures in the La Liga this weekend. About the Italian Serie A, I will have some fixtures as well, as Pisa will be up against Sassuolo. Napoli will welcome Fiorentina. Cagliari will play host to Verona's. Torino will welcome Lecce. Czech Fabregas Como will be up against Atalanta, and Cremonese will welcome Inter Milan. Parma will take on Juventus, as Udinese will welcome AS Roma. Bologna will play host to AC Milan. These are the fixtures, yes, in the Italian Serie A. Meanwhile, in the Bundesliga, Eintracht Frankfurt will up against Bayern Leverkusen, as RB Leipzig will welcome Metz. Yes, Metz in that particular fixtures. Werder Bremen also play Mönchengladbach, as Augsburg will up against St. Pauli. Hoffenheim will trade tackles against Union Berlin, while Hamburger SV will welcome Bayern Munich, who will be hoping to bounce back to winning ways after suffering, a defeat in their last encounter against Augsburg. Stuttgart will also hope to fry Freiburg in that encounter, as well as Dortmund will welcome Heidenheim. In the French Ligue 1, we have some big fixtures, as well as Paris FC will be at home against Olympique Marseille. Our own Moise Simon will certainly be in action in that very one if he's selected to start the game. While Lorient will welcome Nantes. AS Monaco will be up against Rennes. Lyon will trade tackles against Lille. Toulouse will be hoping not to lose against Auxerre, while Nice will play Brest. Angers will take their anger to, beat Metz, yes, as Strasbourg also welcome Paris Saint-Germain. These are the fixtures in the French Ligue 1 this weekend. Before we leave Kingsley, our sport extraordinaire, we'll go to Novak Djokovic, and the reason is very simple. Novak Djokovic made history by becoming the oldest player to reach Australian Open final in the professional era, breaking a 54-year-old record held by Ken Rosewall. Kingsley, you think he deserves it?
Deserving, for me. I take a look at a man who is 38 years, beat someone who is 32, and now is in the final when no one, of course, expected. All right, this might just be the year for Novak Djokovic. I think for me, very deserving.
Very deserving indeed. And on that note, this is where we say that it is deserving having you out there watching. And of course, this is where we say arrivederci for the show this evening. I did the show alongside Kingsley Emmanuel. My name is Emmanuel Michael. Tomorrow morning, 7 to 8 a.m., we'll be back here to bring you yet another interesting sport personality here on Atlantic Television Network. You can do well to go down to a different social media handle, X, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook as well, and follow us up there. And the conversation will certainly continue. But at this point, we say have a very beautiful night ahead.